Hi everyone, this is Emily Bowen-Moore and I am doing a video here that is giving you an introduction into the interface of InDesign. So here is basically what the interface looks like, and how I got to this point is I opened up InDesign here and you can create a new document. And we're not going to worry about any specifications here, but once you have a new document, it's going to pop it up in a tab bar up here at the top. So you can, if you have multiple documents open, you can switch between them easily. So I've also got the syllabus brought up so you can kind of see. I did your syllabus in InDesign here, so you can kind of see how it looks in its bare form before printing. So let's look here at the interface. We're not going to get into any tools or instructional stuff yet. I just want you to kind of I don't want you to feel intimidated when you first open the program, which is typically the case. So let's look at what we have here. So you're going to be presented with a lot of icons and they're going to seem very confusing, but I promise once you get used to the screen and the interface, they won't seem so intimidating anymore. So you've got several sections here. You're going to have the very top menu where you've got File and Edit and Layout. So these present options for you when you are adjusting and creating specifications for let's say you draw a square or rectangle, you can transform it, arrange it front and back, that kind of thing. So you've got those options here. In InDesign, it's very user-friendly. It allows the user to customize things very easily, not only in your work, but also in your workspace, which is here on the interface. So besides most of the commands that you see, right beside them, you're going to see shortcut keys. So some of those you will learn over others. I mean, even working in this industry for 20 years, there's some commands I don't even use for certain things. So as you execute your vision and specific design elements, you will use ones more than others, you know, in terms of the tools that you'll be using. So right under the top menu, you've got some basic icons up here. These kind of link you to other Adobe programs, like for Adobe Stock, if you have the extra Adobe Stock imagery, if you want to access those viewing options, you've got your screen mode. All of those things are presented up here in a short icon, in a short term view. You've also got over here to the right, you've got your search window if you're not able to find something specific. You've also got this window here that relates to your workspace. And right now we've got it under Essentials, and I'll show you what that's all about in just a moment. Underneath that, you've got a panel here. This panel may change based on the specific tools that you're using. So in this case, I have the general selection tool chosen, so it is giving me the options that relate to selection tools, and that's going to include color. So here's my fill, here's my outline or stroke, my different types of lines, you know, effects window, your text wrap window, all of those things, transparency. So those give you some things to modify. Again, those things are also in this top menu, and what you're about to find is also in the windows over to the right, as well as the toolbar over to the left. So you basically have the same tools in multiple spots, just for accessibility and for customization of your workspace. Every person works differently, so that's what Adobe is really good about, is giving you the options to really make your workspace customized to your liking, and so you get the best or the most desirable effect in your work. So if we look below that, here we have our tabs for our documents. I just talked about that. You also have a ruler that goes horizontally and vertically that borders your workspace here where your document is. And you can make that appear or go away just by clicking Command R. And if you have a PC, I think it is a Control R. Your Command key is replaced with Control on a PC. Over to the left here, you have your toolbar. And we won't get into all the individual tools, but in general, like I said, when you're in different tools, the panel at the top is going to change. For instance, when I go to the Type tool, all of these options here are all my type options. You know, my typeface, the style of that typeface, the size, the line spacing, etc. And we'll get more into those terminology later, or that terminology later. In the toolbar, you'll notice some of these tools have a little arrow beside them. So in that case, what that means is that you've got more tools in that little toolbox. So if I hold down the type tool here, in this case, it's showing me I've got two types of type tools. I've got a type tool and I've got a type on a path tool. And over to the right of that, it gives me the shortcut keys. So these shortcut keys work really interestingly and save you a lot of time once you get used to them. So I recommend getting used to these shortcut keys, especially with the tools that you use over and over again. Okay, and you may be quizzed on some of those eventually. This bar that the toolbar is in, you can also have different views. You know, anything on the interface that's in Adobe, you can move out and make it and place it wherever you would like. I can also click the two little arrows at the top and get a different view if you want your toolbar horizontally on your workspace, or you can make it a double column view if you would like. So that offers you those options. And if you want to move it back, you can just click and drag it over, and when you see the blue line, you can let it go and it goes back into the framing of the interface. All right. Anywhere you are on your workspace here, you're going to be able to see where you are along the ruler too. And along this ruler, it's great to have these little pop guides that you can pull. So if you click on the ruler and drag, you can pull vertical and horizontal ruled lines. So those are helpful guides when you're lining up type or lining up an image with the type. As you can see, I've done that here with the top of this image with the top of the text to the left. I made sure those things lined up effectively. So if we keep going around the interface page here at the bottom, you have a few things here that you'll have to pay attention to eventually. Now this document, I've got a few pages. This lets me know how many pages I have, and you can jump to where you are along that document. So you can just navigate here easily, or you can click the arrow button to go to the next page, etc. These two options here give you your pre-flight panel and what you're doing as far as digital publishing or basic working format, which is what we're mostly going to be working in. So you don't really have to change that. Your pre-flight panel, if I click on that, it comes up. Now, this allows you to check for errors in your work. So in this case, I have no errors, which is what you want. But say I accidentally, have an image and I do not have a link to that image, it'll show up as an error and say missing link. Or if there's fonts that you have used or typefaces that you have used that are not on my computer, when I open it up, I will get a pre-flight window error that says missing fonts. So we'll talk about how to make sure you have no errors, but that's where you will have to check for that. And if you do have errors, that little green dot will be red, and that's something to be aware of. All right, so if we keep going over, you can change your layout to a split layout view. This gives you kind of a double view. If you're working close up in a certain area, it gives you kind of a way to see it on a bigger scale and zoomed out, so you can switch back and forth there. And then over here we've got these icons again, which all relate to the tools we're using. Like I mentioned before, most of these icons are the same icons repeated in different locations on the interface. So we call these our tool windows. And again, you can move the bar out and expand them. I can make them a little bigger so that it shows my tabs. So here's my swatches of color. And again, when I'm in my selection tool, I have those options, same options up here as well. So it gives you extra visibility on those. You can move them around wherever you would like. You can sort them however you would like. I can even make them double columned here, or I can add them back over to the far edge here. So you can, put them wherever you would like and customize your workspace to your liking. So don't be intimidated about these windows. The ones you're working in will be visible. And if they're not visible, you can always make them visible by going to the very top window and going to Window and click on whatever window you want to be visible. So there's the layer window. Here it is over to the side, and it became visible for me. All right, so these things help us access our tools a lot more efficiently and give us that usability that we need. And that's where it comes up to the Essentials bar up here. Once you have your workspace comfortable and like you want it, you can save that workspace under New Workspace and save it under whatever name you would like. So if you were doing posters and you have a specific grid that you're using and you want to keep it that way, and there's certain windows that and tools that you're using and you want to keep those available and open, then you can save that workspace under posters, and every time you do a poster, you can just go up here, click on posters, and your whole interface will adapt and change to exactly how you have it for that type of application. So that's a general introduction into InDesign, into the interface and the appearance, and just navigating around the screen. So like I said, we'll get more into the individual tools and the terminology that goes along with that as we progress into the weeks ahead. So you can also customize your control panel up here as well. So anything that you have questions about, please ask. Most of the options, if you scroll over them, it's going to tell you what it is. That's your glyphs window, that's your layers window, same with the tools. So most everything is self-explanatory, but again, if you're not familiar with a certain term or what it does, just let me know, and we'll talk about it. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of these tools anyway. We won't be using all of them, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so this play around with it, start a document, and just kind of get oriented, practice, practice, practice. That's the key to using these programs. I taught myself these programs, and so you're going to have to do extra practice outside of the projects we're doing to really get comfortable using these Adobe products. So please practice, practice, practice. Okay? So next we'll be talking about Photoshop. So look at that video as well. In the meantime, I will talk to you soon, and thank you for listening.